Governance Committee meeting agenda to order. This meeting of the General Governance Committee is being held in hybrid meeting format with virtual and in-person participation by members of the public, staff, and council. This meeting is also being live streamed and may be viewed online at ajax.ca/live. A friendly reminder to all participants, please use your microphone at all times. For the benefit of those participating in council chambers and joining remotely, I'll now call this meeting to order. We'll start with the land acknowledgement. We'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which you gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territories of the Mississaugas. More specifically, the Mississaugas of Squamish Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action and acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep those principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation, and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. I'd just like to point out that, unfortunately, Regional Councillor Crawford is a bit ill and will be taking this meeting remotely. So, do we have any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, can I get a mover of the adoption of the minutes for 3.1, the regular meeting, March 17, 2025? I see Councillor Bauer. We will start the vote. And that passes. Next, we have item 3.2, the adoption of minutes of the closed session, March 17, 2025. Can I get a mover, please? I see Councillor Tyler Morin. We will start the vote. And that passes. Now on to the consent agenda. We have a very short meeting with very little polls, which is what I would say if Mayor Collier had not pulled everything. So, can I just get a mover for 4.5, please? I see Councillor Bauer, and we'll vote on that, just on 4.5. Oh, didn't you? Didn't. That's right. Sorry, 4.5 and 4.12. Please vote. Thank you, Mayor Collier. All right, that passes. Let's go point by point. So 4.1 council, there's a bit of a asterisk in this one. We are going to talk about everything there is to talk about in open session. We aren't actually going to vote on this till after the closed session, and then we'll vote again in open session. So all discussion regarding the initiative, except for the funding, is to be spoken about in this session. So, Mayor Collier.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, I think it's the source of the funding, not the funding itself. Right?
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah. I guess first, and I guess this will be through you to Mr. Nichols, I just wonder, I'm having a hard time understanding, like, part of the justification for this is to meet our climate plans. How will these public chargers assist the town in reducing our corporate admissions, since these are public chargers at Carruthers and Rotary?
Do you want to just press it once? Okay. Give us a quick second. It's amazing.
Hey, I got it. Okay, there we go.
There you are.
Perfect. That's a very good question, and I think any of these chargers that we have around town will help our fleet vehicles. I think that particular point is speaking more to the bulk of the chargers, which are at Town Hall and the operations center. We did bundle sort of two grants that we had together into one in order to help, I suppose, expedite that process a bit. But I think the point about helping our fleet vehicles more speaks to the chargers that we're seeing at our facilities.
Well, that's kind of leads to my next question. This nice segue is why are we not putting all these at operations or somewhere where our fleet vehicles will be charged? I see the ones up front here. I see the others in the other areas. I have 4 EVs in my family. We have a charger at home. We don't use any of the other ones around. I'm not seeing the use of these. So I'm wondering why we wouldn't focus these at operations instead of around the town if they are to benefit our fleet vehicles.
Yeah, again, a very good question, and I think that also speaks to the nature of some of these grants. So for EV Charge On, the chargers themselves need to be publicly accessible. So if we were to place them at operations, we'd have to kind of maneuver them in such a way that they could be open to the public while, still available for fleet. It would just be a little bit more complicated there, whereas where we're placing them in the report, they're more public facing, they're more accessible to the public. The ones that we have placed at operations and town hall are specifically for fleet vehicles. They have to be used by vehicles that are owned by the applicant. So we have more latitude to place them at the operations center. We can place them in a place that's inaccessible to the public. And it helps on that front.
Okay. Do you have any stats on how often the charges we already have are used at Carruthers, at Rotary, and here at Town Hall? And also, I guess
chargers were used 100% more than they were in 2023. And that's a trend that we're seeing every year, an increase in public charging use.
Okay, I guess, are you able to provide those stats at some
We can
point?
provide that
Not
to the
here.
council quite easily after this, yes.
And the funding, that comes to the town? Like from the people that pay to charge?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Because we are providing electricity.
Yes, there's a fee. It's a fee based on time of use. So the first 30 minutes is slightly cheaper, and then after that it increases. And we update that price quite regularly.
Okay. Figure where we are here. I'm going to cut to the chase here because this is not one that I'm inclined to support today. Just if it was like I know our Ajax sign was popular by many, not by some, but the grant covered the majority of the cost for it, so it was good leveraging of town dollars. In this case, the grant is I think less than a third, quick math, of the overall cost, and I look at this as a nice to have, not a need to have. For the grant, can we use it all specifically on one area, or do we have to do it in all the three areas? Can we use it just specifically for one and cover most or all of the cost, or does it have to be spread out? I hate to give back grant money.
Yeah, again, it's kind of two separate grants, right? So I think under the one that's covering town hall and operations, we might be able to look at consolidating those into them. But again, with the EV charge on grant, that does require them to be publicly accessible. So we would have to keep that consideration in mind. I think that we also did ask them about the flexibility at this stage in the grant process of moving them, and I think that flexibility still exists, but to what extent, I'm not sure.
Okay. I'm also cognizant of what's happening in the world globally now with tariffs and everything else, and I have had a talk with our staff about our green fleet strategy, and we're going to have to seriously look at some of these things, and buying Canadian is real, and we're looking at our procurement, and we may not have as many EVs as we're thinking we might have going forward, and I think all those things are entering into my decision making on this. But I'll leave it there for other councilors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Tyler Moore.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to put into verbal record for those listening. So just to confirm the money that Mayor Colley was just referring to, the contribution is a total of $320,000 from the town with $100,000 in grant money. So are there any other hidden fees? Those are the hard numbers?
No, those are the costs that we're looking at through that grant, yeah.
And is this the type of thing that is going to be installed, again, through the report very soon so that the numbers don't increase if we wait 18 months or something?
Yeah, we are time limited under this grant, so we would see work underway pretty much immediately, and that's part of the reason why we're bringing it forward.
thoughts about this, but we'll see how it plays out. Thank you so much for your report.
Thank you, Councillor Henry.
Thank you. I am also on the fence about this, so I'd like to ask some questions. When you're referring to the fee, so that you said the first 30 minutes has a reduction in fee for the user, correct?
Mr. Richardson said that, but I believe that's correct.
Through the chair to you, Councillor Henry. Yeah, we do have a charging fee for all of the EV chargers that are updated annually. Typically, what you see is the first half hour of use is a smaller fee, and then the longer that person charges their vehicle, it gets more expensive. So, the first 30 minutes may be $2 to charge, and then after that it'll increase steadily, and that's to promote people not sitting and charging for 8 hours a day and allowing that turnover to happen.
And if you were to charge your vehicle at home,
It would be much cheaper to just pay your electrical rates.
cheaper than the first 30 minutes through the town chargers?
Yes.
So then why would anybody go there to charge?
It would be perhaps someone is visiting the Ajax waterfront from a long distance and they would need to top up to get home and improve their range. This typically wouldn't be like the overnight charging you would do at the ultra low rate overnight. It would be when people need to top up. So if someone's traveling to work from quite a distance, they might want to plug in for 30 minutes to top up to get home.
And we're not losing any money on this when they're getting the reduction in the 30 minutes, because we're charging them over what they would have been charged at home, correct?
It's covering all of our costs in electricity for sure, with a bit of a revenue that would come into the town. We wouldn't be losing any cost on that. No, it's the upfront capital costs that are high with the electric vehicle chargers.
Sorry, it's
The upfront capital cost to install the chargers, design the electrical panel in such a way that you can install them. Sometimes you have to increase capacity at a facility to install that amount of chargers, so that's where the upfront capital costs are high, and that would be covered through capital budgets and potentially funding. I wouldn't say that the charging fee would cover those capital costs. It would take quite a while to do that.
is there a maintenance fee on these type of devices?
We do pay an annual fee to ChargePoint, who is our vendor for our electric vehicle chargers. That includes maintenance. It's a cloud-based platform as well for all of the information, so we do pay a service fee for that.
Do you know what that is?
Not off the top of my head, I don't.
No. Okay.
I think it's roughly around 10,000 per year.
Per charger?
No, for the
Includes
town.
For 10 chargers. 10,000, 10 chargers. Okay. And when you install these in a neighborhood, you said something about, I guess, it's obviously a drain on the power grid. Does it affect neighborhoods in any way? Like if you install a large amount of them?
I suppose if you install a lot of them, it could. You need electrical capacity available. I believe for these funding opportunities, we already had to get a lexicon approval that there is capacity there's capacity within the panel systems at the facilities.
Okay. You mentioned about 100% increase in uses from one year to the next, but you don't have exact numbers.
Not with me. I can get that to council quite easily today.
Off the top of your head, just like we're not talking, like obviously if 50 people use it and there's 100 this year, that's 100% increase. But are you thinking more in the range of like 300 to 600?
I wouldn't speculate. I'd have to go look. It would depend on the location as well. Some are used a lot more often than others, depending on the location.
Okay. And with our friends to the south and everything that's happening there, our fleet vehicles, they're Hyundai, correct?
I'd have to defer that to
Through the
Director
chair.
Meredith, but yeah, some are, I believe.
Are they hybrid? Do we have, sorry, Director Meredith, do we have HV vehicles, and if so, what brand, do you know?
We have a variety of manufacturers with EV and hybrid technology.
And are any of them made in Canada?
I'd have to get the specifics. I don't know offhand.
Because I was listening this morning about one of the cities up north and how one of the manufacturers is shutting down. Now it made larger commercial EVs for delivering. It wasn't what we would be using, but I'm asking because I'm wondering with regards to what we're going to be able to get and installing these and what we're going to need for the fleet if it's even something we should be doing right now with the trade talks and what we're going into. Do we know what we're going to have access to? Have we looked at that? Like availability from vehicles?
So through the chair to Councillor Henry, that is something we're actually looking at right now. We've had meetings with our procurement team on not just vehicles, but other products that we acquire through our tendering process, from parks to roads to playgrounds to vehicles. So we are looking at it with the understanding of what is available from a Canadian content standpoint, and we'll be making sort of those determinations sort of as we move forward. But those meetings are happening internally right now.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Barr?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Nichols, Mr. Richardson. Nice to see you. So I just want to confirm my own numbers from your report. Currently, we have 28 total EV stations. Is that right?
I believe that's the amount being proposed.
Okay, so we don't have any of these right now?
No, seeking funding today for stations at Town Hall, Operations Center, Rotary, and Carruthers, and those are, I believe, the only numbers that we cited for the
Okay,
number of
so
stations
those,
being installed.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clearing that up. So we don't have these. These are the ones that we're trying to
That's correct.
use partial grant money and then partial unbudgeted town funds.
That's
Okay,
correct.
thank you. And the reason you're asking for this unbudgeted item is because a second grant is time sensitive, or the entire funding pool?
We applied for these grants with the understanding that the town is moving forward with net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. We did have discussions around the cost of it, the pricing, what the town would get out of these opportunities, and ultimately decided to put these projects forward. Because we've been approved for that funding, and it's kind of at a weird time in our budget cycle, we're seeking council support to move forward with the unbudgeted project.
Okay. And currently we have how many?
I'm not sure. Cameron? 20.
We currently have 20, so this would bring our inventory up to 48.
That math sounds
Right?
correct to me.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. I know I'm trying.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, so without this grant, if this grant was not successful, or I guess it's twofold. What is our plan right now for the total number of charging units we would want to see ideally in our town? And then I guess the second part would, if we were not successful with this grant, would you be coming here today asking, like, would we be installing these?
I think I would defer to Cameron on that question.
Thank you. Through the chair to you, Councillor Bauer. No, the reason this project is coming forward unbudgeted is because we were successful in securing the grants.
Right.
If we were not, we would be bringing this through a proper budgeting process into the future, I think, and phasing installment into the future. But we've been successful in these grants, so we've come today.
Okay.
The reason we've identified operations in Town Hall as locations that these could be installed is because of the Green Fleet strategy that was recently approved by Council, where it did identify the need if we are going to transition that fleet and electrify, buy more hybrids, we need the infrastructure in place to actually charge that fleet, which we do not currently have, especially at Ops, but even at Town Hall with the hybrid fleet set to grow at Town Hall as well.
Okay. And overall, is there a magic number already in place that the town would see ideal as the number of stations, or not yet? We don't have that.
I don't think we have that right now. I think the best estimate we had was we would need around 75 total if we were to implement the Green Fleet strategy to transfer the fleet over and electrify it.
Okay, thank you.
But that would not in like the near term. That would be longer out and phased out. Yeah,
For sure.
correct.
Thank you. And just a question for the doubling of usage in the last year. Could some of that stat be, I remember not that long ago that not all fleet was being charged. So is some of that increase due to our own fleet vehicles being used? Is that what it's for? We weren't using it and now we are?
Through the chair to you, Councillor Bauer, no, I would suggest that's not the case because we didn't really change our charging processes until later in the year.
Okay.
I would suggest that the majority of that doubling is from just more personal residents of Ajax, visitors of Ajax owning personal vehicles that are now hybrid or electric. I mean, anecdotally, you can tell on the streets there are a lot more.
Yes.
And we've seen that in vehicle registration numbers that over the past 5 years, it's kind of exponential growth in EV vehicles on the road. So I would suggest that's the largest part of the growth that we're seeing.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for that information. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee? Seeing none, I have a few. Would the purchase of these chargers follow this council's current commitment, philosophical, corporate, to climate change?
That's a large question. I'm not sure that I'm placed to answer it. I don't even know if Candace can take a stab at it.
I'll take a stab at that to you, Chair. I would suggest that it is because Council has endorsed corporate and community GHG reduction targets, both of which aim for net zero by 2050. And the only way to do that is to electrify and get off of fuel use and natural gas use. That's what I would suggest.
Have emissions increased or decreased since we adopted both strategies?
Our emissions, I have a bit of information on that in a later presentation. They've decreased since our baseline year of 2019.
And is it safe to say that electric vehicle adoption has increased since, we'll say, 2022?
Absolutely, yes.
So I just want to remind council, in my point of view, which has fully been supportive of our green strategy, is we've made a commitment to the environment to reduce our emissions. This is a great way to get bang for our buck, so to speak. And yes, it is a considerable price tag, but to get 48 out of almost 75, we are now well on our way to achieving, what we can to change the current landscape of our climate emergency, which we declared. So I am fully in support of this. I think this is a great, continuation of the steps we've put in place. And yes, no matter what happens in the States, there's still only one planet, and we have to do what we can to protect that, whether it's protecting headwaters or, in this case, electrifying our fleet. So those are my comments. Seeing no other comments or questions from council, we're going to move on to the next one. Oh, we have Mayor Collier. Mayor Collier for the second time.
I'm commenting now.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that, and Cam, I respectfully, I don't think we can influence the public's greenhouse gas reduction. I know we can do it corporately, but you did say corporate and public, and I don't think we can do that. I don't think that's our responsibility or our right, personally. We can set the example, which we've done all the way those types of things. We had hybrid vehicles long before any of this. Unfortunately, I don't think they're plugged in for the longest time recently. I've seen them out here once in a while, but I think when that decision was made was a different time and place, honestly, than where we are today. We've done our budget. This is not an insignificant budget ask. This is a fairly significant budget ask. And as I said, I'm not against the green fleet strategy. Did I second that? I think. I mean, it's something I feel is important, but what I also feel is important is things really have changed, and there's so many unknowns right now. And what I do know is in our budgets, we have budgeted and we had a significant tax increase this year, and we might have another one. And having a fairly $500,000 unapproved budget item put in on a maybe right now, I can't support. And so it's nothing to do with respecting the environment. It's nothing to do with any of that. It's if the grant was $300,000 and we're putting in $500,000, I think that's good leveraging of tax dollars. But in this case, I always look back to the growth that we don't get on that money if we spend it today versus if we keep it and let it grow. And then do this maybe when we know a little bit more. Like if you had told me that these things are used day and night and the revenue from these machines is going to pay for itself, which is one of my favorite things, I'd be like all for it. But I don't think we're anywhere near that, unfortunately. And as I said, I have 4 EVs in my household. You have one. I don't know anybody that you have two. I don't know anybody that has an EV that doesn't have their own charger. So these are primarily for out-of-town people coming to visit. And we already, I think, have that. I also want to point out, if we are going to do these, if this doesn't pass, and we do these again later on, maybe when situations change, I think we have to really be looking at the higher end chargers, like the higher end level 2s and 3s. I mistakenly told a little fib earlier when I said I haven't used them. I did use it once. But not gonna lie, I just wanted to park in that spot, so I plugged my car in. But it's such a low amp charger. I think it's a 20 or 30 amp that you would have to be there literally 48 hours, I think, for your car to be fully charged. So I think if we are going to be looking at doing these again, I think we need to be doing the higher 60 amp or higher that are going to give you a quicker charge. We can charge more for it and recoup your money, but those are just my thoughts. I'm sorry, I can't do this today. If it was deferred until we had those numbers and they changed, maybe, or as situations change globally. Thank you.
Councilor Andrew, your second time.
Thank you. I'm going to echo the mayor's comments because when this strategy was passed through the chair, this was prior to what's happening south of us, south of the border, correct? Prior to this president, prior to the tariff threats, prior to us maybe not being able to get the vehicles we want for our fleet strategy. We don't know. We might have reverse on this. We don't want to, but we don't know what's going to happen with stock that's available. So for me right now, when I'm asking what stock are we going to be able to have, and no one can tell me that, but we're saying that we're going to be doing this mainly for our corporate strategy, it's not jiving with me. It's not matching up. So I agree with the mayor. In the future, yes, the strategy is a good strategy, but again, we've got a lot of expenses coming this way. So thank you.
Thank you, staff, for the presentation. We're going to move on to 4.2. So 4.2, the AFES, no, we're going to vote after the closed session. We have the May 2021 Ajax Fire Emergency Service Fire Master Plan, midterm update. We have Mayor Collier is the first, followed by Councilor Henry and Councilor Tyler Moore. Mayor Collier. Excuse me, sorry. We have Councilor Henry, followed by Councilor Tyler Moore.
Thank you. Thank you. So I see that we have some folks in the room that are going to be able to answer these questions for me. We have the chief, through the chair, we have the chief, we have HR, and we have our diversity coordinator. So I have 4 to 5 questions. My first question is, do we do blind resume hiring for the fire department? That's my first question. Who's going to take that? You have to push the button.
Through the chair to Councillor Henry, yes, we do use anonymized screening for all of our recruitment, including the Fire and Emergency Services Department.
I'm sorry, what was it called?
It's called anonymized screening.
Automized screening.
Anonymized screening.
Anonymized screening. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I had some crinkling beside me. Sorry. I couldn't hear. So when you say that,
yes,
that is not through the whole process, correct? That starts at the beginning of the process. But it's somewhere through this process of hiring for fire, is it not true that the applicants are seen, visually seen through a test that they do?
yes.
A physical test, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So I guess what I'm going to ask is, when we're looking at diverse hiring, is this working in favor or against? And is there recommendations moving forward with this?
Councilor Henry, can you point out where it shows diverse hiring on the Ajax Emergency Service Fire Master Plan?
I don't have that up. I just have my questions. But I believe there was a part about diversity.
Okay. Very good. So could we get the response, please?
Yes.
Okay, so it's difficult for us to know that at this point. This is a fairly new system that the town has introduced. We introduced this anonymized screening in June of 2024. system, which we've implemented the anonymized screening as part of that. And so there'll be an opportunity for us to observe as well as we continue on, to try to ensure that we're applying the same concepts across the board for all applications that are coming into the town. So when they are initially being screened, the information is being redacted on the resume. Different attributes on the resume are being redacted so that when hiring managers are reviewing, they're reviewing based on merit.
But this process is a little bit different for fire than other departments, right? Because there's a physical aspect to it that comes to play where you have to see what the candidate can physically do. Is that correct?
Well, there are, when you've gone through the resumes and you've decided who you're calling in for, let's say, an interview, then you are seeing the candidates at the time of the interview.
Okay. Is there enough of a diverse candidate pool in this field to meet the targets of diverse hires?
I would say that it is probably, I think statistically speaking, that there is a very much of a smaller pool of diverse candidates that are applying for firefighter positions.
Interesting. How can the town of Ajax set new standards for inclusive practices within the fire department services?
I think there are a number of things that we can do, and I think there's a number of things that we have done, and I think that certainly the chief can speak to that, and so can I pass it over to the chief to answer some of those questions?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Henry. Through the Office of Diversity, Fire has been working very actively to promote diversity. It started, and to be honest, this started decades ago. It started when women were first getting into the service. In July of 2001, we hired our first female firefighter for the town of Ajax, at Ajax Fire. Since that time, we've been active, we've been out networking, we've been involved in Camp Molly that does camps for women who are interested in the fire service. And we've had a lot of success in that path. And the key is about getting out there and being active in the community and being present with the different various areas. And as the manager of HR alluded to, we do have some challenges because you don't have a large, diverse pool. Some statistics that I was able to gather are approximately 83% of applicants are male, 15% are female, and 76% identify as white, with 16% as visible minorities. So,
sorry, what was that last number?
16% identify as visible minorities. So there are challenges there, but the key that we really need to get through is taking an intentional and equity-informed approach to reaching out to those underrepresented communities. This includes building relationships with the community leaders, attending community events, flag raisings. One of the things we've also done is career fairs at one of the local mosques. And we've also had discussions with Rizwan Mohammed, as many of you know, about how we can better bridge the gap with those communities, because there are some stigmatisms when it comes to the fire service. There's beliefs of, people don't want their kids to be risking themselves going into burning buildings and things like that, which is natural, makes sense. And then many people in those communities want their children to become doctors and lawyers. So we're trying to bridge that gap. But it isn't something that's going to happen overnight, and it's something that's going to be continual and building those relationships to get more candidates involved and build that more diverse candidate pool.
And are we working with the high schools for this when they have certain days in the colleges? We're also showing up at those locations as well. I know that you're showing up at all the diverse events and the flag raisings. Like Fire's doing an excellent job there, which helps to build with the community. We see that as a council. Okay, let me go on to my other question. And I don't know if you can answer this, so if I'm out of order, just let me know. How many individuals do we have from the LGBTQ plus community or visible diverse community that have left the fire department? Do we know why? And are we creating a welcoming environment that is having folks that want to come into this?
Through the chair to Councillor Henry. Just off the top of my head, I believe we've had one from the LGBTQ community who left, but they left in relation to being closer to home. They lived in the London, Ontario area. So the commute was the major issue. One thing that we've done in relation to also enhancing our internal diversity is we formed an internal diversity task force that's working on enhancing our policies and procedures as it comes to women and pregnant women and new mothers, and we've been very successful at promoting new processes and policies related to that.
Okay. And when we refer to perhaps refining strategies, and this might go to our diversity coordinator, what examples could we have about refining strategies moving forward? Hi, just hit, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, I think it was Council through the chair. I think it's really important, before I respond to that question, I think it's really important to for me to recognize that when we talk about the lack of diversity within the Ajax Fire Department, we are not talking about an isolated problem, but something to respond to a broader systemic national problem. There's a lack of diversity within the national landscape, right? So, Stats Canada, for instance, their 2019 report shows that only 4.4% of the fire staff across Canada are or identify as women. So having said that, I think it's really important to say that within the EDI department, we do want to make sure that we refine our strategy, that we work in collaboration with the fire department. Some of the strategies that we are planning to implement that respond to the recommendations from the census data from 2022, which there were 21 recommendations, including improving and advancing EDI training across departments. That includes not just improving EDI training, but also refining the training, ensuring that the training responds to the needs, the specific needs of each department. So that would mean that we include that we expand that within the fire department as well, including anti-racist training, anti-black racism training, cultural humility training, and so on. As well, refining our strategy with regards to outreach. So that may involve, conducting a robust literature review to understand really what are the challenges and the barriers that prevent certain communities from being interested in a career in the fire department. And then conducting an outreach strategy that is culturally relevant. Again, reaching out to high schools, reaching out to religious places, perhaps even conducting informal community consultations to really understand what are the cultural aspects that are preventing certain communities from being interested in a career in the fire department. I think those are some pieces that I may be comfortable sharing with right now.
That's wonderful. Thank you. You've got a great perspective on things.
Councilor Henry, I'm going to have to stop you there. You've gone double past your time.
Yes, I'm allowed double past my time, but have I gone double past my time, or have my answers at the
Doesn't matter.
You just go with.
It's built in as per our procedure bylaw.
Got it. Okay. I have one more question. Can I come back after?
Yes, that is part of it, yes.
Thank
so I'm
you.
going to go to Councilor Tyler Moran.
Thank you, Chair. Just in regards to the report, 121, page 121, but in our agenda it's 162. And the brief discussion, it feels like it's from 30,000, just thinking out loud kind of thing. But now that it's in the report, people read these and they could be asking us questions. So my question to you is, are you able to expand a the map is very interesting, all the possible locations. Is there any way of tightening up on that information, or?
Through the chair to regional counselor, to Counselor Rob Tyler.
It's okay.
In relation to the station location items, it is part of a 2026 capital budget project that we're looking at that'll do a more comprehensive fire station location study that'll look into all of those elements, and then we'll report back to council on that.
Okay, so you can't tell me exactly where it's going to be right now?
Not at this point, no.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Chair.
Councilor Bauer?
Thank you, Chair Lee. I do have a couple of questions as well. Thank you for all the questions so far. So, following a little bit along the same lines as Councillor Tyler Morin. So, and I was looking at page 24 of the report, but it's also in the big master plan. So, the comprehensive fire station location study. So with all the intensification that is expected, particularly within the major transit station area, do you expect or do you consider that the Monarch station is sufficient, the location and the size of it, or do you anticipate that there will be some changes made there?
Through the chair to Councillor Bauer, given the recent renovation to Station 2 and the work that's been done there, I don't foresee any changes for the foreseeable future.
Okay. And do you have any comment, Chief, about, is there any additional concerns now that we have the, the additional dwelling units bylaw about having four
That's
housing units per thing? Is there a worry from fire on that or comment on that?
from fires, through the chair to Councillor Bauer. From fire's perspective, strictly from a fire perspective, that would really depend on the initial call that we get. When fire responds and we get an initial call to a residence, we do a size up around the entire structure. So if we had a report that it's a backyard structure, for instance, we would be proceeding directly to that. But if it came in as just a report of a fire at that address, fire's policies and procedures dictate that we would do a 360 around that building anyways, at which time we'd find the fire in the backyard anyways.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Those are my questions, Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Henry for a second time.
Thank you. One additional question. Page 69, this quote, EMT is recommending that the town investigate opportunities to ensure traffic does not delay the fire department response. So we're referring to, through the chair, I believe to the chief, we're referring to Westney Road, correct? And Westney Road is local, regional in that area? Chair? Regional.
relation to the traffic that we do find when that station tries to respond during rush hour periods. What we have done, and I have to thank council and the mayor for their support of the various projects related to the fire master plan, and what we've done is actually implemented a system whereby we hit a button at the station and it helps to change the traffic lights around the station. So we've worked with the region and town staff to implement that, and it has had some successes of improving the traffic. So that's where that was. We're still monitoring it because as we continue to intensify, it may become more of a larger issue.
Do we get a report on that as council? I haven't seen anything on that. Will we get anything to say how much time it saved in responses?
We haven't made a report at this time, but it is something that we can monitor, especially as we're transitioning over to a new dispatch system.
Excellent. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a mover for the report, please? I see Councillor Henry, and we'll call the vote. One person's not voted. One person's not voted. No, we have all voted. Never mind. Okay, we are on item 4.3 AFES 2025-12, the Emergency Response Plan and Bylaw. This is pulled by Mayor Collier. Mayor Collier?
Thank you, Chair. Just be very quick on this one. Very brief on this one once I find my questions. I think first of all, it was, and I did receive a question from a member of the public on this, and I just want to publicly point out, myself nor any member of council are part of the emergency management team. Is that correct?
Are you looking for stuff?
To whoever wants to answer that question. To the chief, I guess, or?
Chair to Mayor Collier, you're correct on that, yes.
Why is that? Should there not be a member myself or the deputy mayor on that committee? Is there a reason why?
Through the chair to Mayor Collier, the reason for that, generally, we include in the management committee, the emergency management committee, people that are directly involved with the annual exercises and the implementation of the CMCG, as well the emergency group, so that they're more involved with the actual incident itself.
Okay, I just wondered if there was any sort of legislative act or anything which said this is to be the composition of the committee.
It's more the norm of the province.
Right. I am, though, on the, what is the committee called that I am on? The Emergency Management
Program Committee,
where we develop some of these other plans and go through these So I just want to just make this aware, everybody aware of our involvement. We're not completely separated from it. However, these are designed in such a way as to have those people that are actually in the day-to-day, who are our directors in the day-to-day operations of all these departments, the ones that actually manage these, and the reasoning. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. Could I get a mover for the report, please? Seeing Regional Councilor Dines, and we will call the vote. That passes. Thank you very much. We're on to item 4.4, FIN-2025-09, the 2024 Cash in Lieu Parkland, Cash in Lieu Parking and Community Benefits Annual Statement. We had Mayor Collier pull this.
Thank you, Chair. Just the Section 37 community benefits charge. This was appealed. So what is the process during the appeal, and when do we expect that to be resolved?
Through the chair to Mayor Collier. So there is an appeal process. At the time, though, we can charge and collect as per the bylaw, and then with it would go through
The current bylaw, not the new bylaw, right? Or is it the new bylaw?
the new bylaw. And based on the outcome of the appeal, if there are refunds or changes, then we would have to deal with that at that time.
Okay. And down to Section 40, the cash in lieu of parking, sorry. Like, looking at this, we started this in 2019, and we've done two. Given Bill 185 and the elimination of, minimum parking requirements and high density, and we've only collected for 2 in 5 years, is this still relevant, or should we look at maybe getting rid of this?
Yeah, through the chair to the mayor. It's legislated that we could collect cash in lieu of parking. I wouldn't say that we should get rid of it. I think with more intense development and larger developments, aside from all the various legislation and the reductions in parking, there could be even further reductions in parking, and we could benefit from collecting cash in lieu for those further reductions. Yes, we've only done 2. I believe it was Medallion Phase 1 and 113 Old Kingston Road, which hasn't been developed. That's the property right at the western edge of Pickering Village. So I think it's a useful piece of legislation. I think we will collect parking, cash in lieu of parking in the future. And yes, it's only been 2, but there haven't been that many developments to date that have asked for further reductions beyond committee of adjustment or through amendment
that has been helpful given Bill 185, because technically in our MTSA, especially on the GO station, a developer could build a 50-story building with no parking based on the act. So by using those mayor's directives, we are at least able to get not as much as we would like, but at least usually it was at 0.85 or something per space. But this, so what you're saying, this is legislative, we can do it, it's just a tool in the toolbox. Leave it there. Thank you.
Do you want to move it? Moved by Mayor Collier, and we will start the vote. That passes. 4.5 has been dealt with. We're doing a 4.6 FIN 2025-11. 2024 operating results and year-end reserve allocations, also moved by Mayor Collier. Mayor Collier? Oop, sorry. Councilor Henry got it there first. Go ahead, Mayor Collier.
Find my questions. Is this the right one, or which one are we on?
4.6 operating results, year-end reserve allocations. Do you want to go to Councilor Henry first?
Sure, please.
Councilor Henry.
Thank you. 4.6, page 531. Reimbursement from the region of Durham for a cost sharing of cleanup, costs for homelessness as well as asylum seekers. 289,000. And I just want to understand this a little bit better, because when it says cost sharing, I'm not understanding this. I'm not sure who I'd ask this of, but through the provincial government, I'm trying to find the federal numbers, but the provincial government alone has given $23.7 million to the region from 2024 to 25 in 3 categories that are broken down. And I believe the federal government gave $6 million. And I'm just trying to understand, when we're talking about costs for cleanup for homelessness, why it is that we're doing a cost sharing. Why aren't we being fully reimbursed? Can anyone answer that?
Ms. Bowers?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councilor Henry. So yes, so Regional Council passed a policy in, I believe it was June of last year, that indicated that local area municipalities that have a shelter in it that is operated or owned by or operated by the region or one of their service providers is entitled to recuperate some costs related to cleanup in the immediate vicinity of those shelter areas. And this came from the discussions in the community from the 1635 Dundas project in Whitby. So residents at the time in the nearby areas had said, and the municipality itself in Whitby had said, we're going to need the region's assistance to help fund some of these additional costs to the municipality as a result of the shelter being put in place. So out of those conversations, the region created a policy that all of the lower tier municipalities are able to access. So that policy dictates that the town is able to recuperate 50% of the cleanup costs and staff costs related to the management of the area within 500 meters around each of the shelter locations. So what the town does is we each month, working with operations, bylaw, corporate security, collects the costs that we have incurred on a monthly basis, whether that's staff time, going out, extra equipment, special equipment, contracted services, and security costs in the areas around the shelters. And we bill the region at 50% of what we are entitled to under their policy.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Are you saying that the regional council created a policy that shortchanged the lower municipalities and getting full refund for the cost cleanup?
I did not use those words.
But that's a summary of what you just said, is it not?
I would say that much of the, and again, I'm not putting words in the region's mouth, but the work that our staff do, whether that's bylaw or operations or corporate security, this is work that we already do. I would say that we do more of it as a result of the shelter, but it is the region's perspective that we only do recuperate 50%.
So I guess, thank you for your answer, but Mayor Collier, can I ask you a question? No, I cannot. Okay, because I'm unclear as to why regional council would agree to that. You can? Okay, so do you want to speak to it now? No. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, there was another question. Mayor Collier.
Oh, that's me. Yeah, the reimbursement is something we fought very hard for at the region. I took the hard stance that, I mean, they're giving it to Oshawa, and then they brought it in for 1635 for Whitby, so we should all be treated the same. We all pay into the regional tax base, and this is what we came up with. So what happened in prior years was they funded Oshawa, and then they started funding Whitby. Our main cost is in security, and they were saying that security is not covered. They only cover cleanup and not sure what else. So we fought quite a bit for that, and finally we're able to get some concessions there, but 50% is now standard across the region. So I didn't like it, but basically, yes, what was happening before was not fair, but this is sort of the fair way we're going to deal with this going forward. Is it still fair? We pay half and they pay half for what is ultimately a regional responsibility? No, but I'm only one member of 29 at regional council, and that's what we decided. So that's that. I do have questions. So on this, well, just Ms. Valentin, and everybody knows how understand the reasoning why on a lot of these. So, I mean, other than moving our budget to January, I don't know if there's any way to fix that, so I'll just have to live with it. But I'm not understanding the investment line in Table 1 on page 3 of the report, page 526 of the agenda, where it talks about, it has the investment income, Lexicon Casino Ajax, and it's showing line items of, in actuals, 25.111 million. But what's I'm not understanding is in the operating budget surplus summary. And we put all of our interest, dividends, and investment income into capital. So I'm just wondering why this shows up and why this affects our surplus.
Through the chair to Mayor Collier. So it's not impacting our surplus, it is being transferred. So the money, the revenue that we collect through their investments, so investment income and such, has to be recorded in a revenue line. And then it is also included above in the reserve allocation. So there it gets transferred out. But we do have to show them through our financial statements of revenue coming in and then being transferred into capital.
Thank you, because what I would hate to see is have a bad year, like maybe this year might not be as good as last year, and see a deficit. So I'm happier whatever comes in goes out, it's a wash.
Yes.
I just wonder, seeing the number that large, and I understand we did have some actual gains and dividends by making the change we made at the start of the year. But is this not all of the growth that we had throughout the year, the 25.111? Like, are we reporting gains that we haven't yet actualized and received?
Through the chair, no, we do not record any unrealized gains. What is being recorded here are interest income that we're getting through our cash balances, GICs, and any reinvested income that is we have to record in our books that are still sitting in the equity fund.
Okay, distributions.
Correct.
We would call them. Okay, that makes sense. That is actual gains. Okay.
Yes.
What are we doing with that? We used to have a tax rate stabilization fund. What do we call that now?
Through the chair, it's still the same.
Oh, it is still the tax
Yes.
rate stabilization. There's another one called a capital contingency.
Yes.
What is that one used for?
Through the chair, so we have a balance of about 2.5 million. That's our target balance for the capital contingency reserve. It was being utilized for all unbudgeted or town portion of grant funding. We changed slightly. And so unbudgeted that have an asset reserve, the funding will come through there, but the capital contingency reserve is still used for any other unbudgeteds that come forward that don't have an asset reserve or are the town's share of grant programs.
Okay. Here's where I'm coming from on this, and I think I've said this before. The tax rate stabilization reserve, I believe, is it a 5 million?
Through the chair, it's a
Target we
range
have on that?
of 5% to 15% of our net revenues. We're currently sitting at about 5.5%, which is about $6.4 million in that reserve.
Okay. I'm very happy when we have good years. And as a practicing financial planner for 2 decades, I've dealt with thousands of clients that, you know, they're very happy when they have good years too. But when you have a not so good year, then you hear about it and they forget all about the good years. So, knowing this, I want to make sure I plan for the years, like maybe this year might not be as good as last year. Why are we not taking the realized gains from the investments, from our long-range investments, we're putting them into other capital accounts, vehicle, whichever, I don't remember them all. But I would really like to see some put into this tax rate stabilization, so if we do have a negative year, we have that kind of float to get us over, because the tax rate stabilization fund is to be used for one-time things, right? Because otherwise we'll create a hole in the budget. And I think we used it once before when interest rates really took a dive and we had budgeted for more than we got and we had to top it up in that 1 year, and then interest rates came back. If I recollect properly, I think you weren't here, I think you were in Scugog. But I mean, if we do have a negative year, which is very possible every, once, twice, every 10 years, I don't want us to have to go back to any other. I would rather have that money sitting in a tax rate stabilization, so we just absorb it and then we move on to the next year. Is that something you've considered or will consider?
Through the chair. So we do monitor all of our investments on a regular basis. We are looking to ensure that the interest income coming forward. What I would say is, as far as budgets go, we do have an operating budget management policy as well. So if we see that there will be impacts to our investment income, we could manage that through our operating budget. Our operating budget only has $1.281 million of investment income identified through that operating budget. The rest is all going to capital.
Okay. And just to the administration of that, we've developed an investment policy. You are bound to follow that policy. I don't have any day-to-day input into where those investments go, what we invest and what we take out, how we move the funds.
Correct.
Thank you. I just want another question that I'd seen flying around. I want to talk about the ASC and the delay in start of the AMPS program, the AMPs. When we talk about this lost revenue, did we plan for this in the budget? And were the estimated and just not received? Or was this because of the delay that we didn't receive the income in that period?
Through the chair to Mayor Caller, I believe we anticipated or we had expected that the program would start earlier in the year, so it was deferred, and that's why.
And we are receiving the funds?
I believe so.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the program's performing well and generating expected revenues now. It was just delayed because of those MTO approvals that took a very long time.
Right, okay. I remember signing off on that. And that's non-tax revenue, which is always good to have. I've already asked about the tax rate stabilization fund, current balance, and I believe that's all my questions, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Regional Councilor Crawford. Regional Councilor, we can't hear you. Can you request to speak again? No. Is your microphone muted by any chance?
Now can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, I've not heard a single word of this meeting after the land acknowledgement, so I apologize if this is a repeat question. I understand somebody has texted me the answer that the region, it is standard for municipalities to only get 50% back of their costs spent. This is unacceptable. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if it's standard or not. When you're developing, I understand you're developing and formalizing a policy for recovery from Durham Region for the costs incurred for cleanup. Is council going to be part of that discussion?
Ms. Barner?
Yeah. Through the chair to Regional Councilor Crawford. We are, the decision that the region makes, staff, we do insert ourselves into those conversations from an advocacy perspective. And we're happy to work with the regional councilors to ensure that they're armed with the information required to